Ik ga vandaag in mijn moedertaal spreken, omdat ik denk dat het Engels niet zo aangewezen is vandaag.
The President of the European Council, together with the President of the Eurogroup and myself, tabled proposals in line with the treaty revision involving all 27 Member States and all the European institutions. Personally, I made every possible effort to agree this fiscal compact fully within the current treaties. This approach required that all 27 Member States play their part. As you know, one Member State was opposed to amending the Lisbon Treaty. The United Kingdom, in exchange for giving its agreement, asked for a specific protocol on financial services, which, as presented, was a risk to the integrity of the internal market. This made compromise impossible. All other heads of state or government were left with the choice between paying this price or moving ahead without the UK's participation.
I've often asked myself the question, why would a successful country that's enjoyed 1,000 years of independence give up its right of self-government to the unelected non-entities that we see sitting before us this morning? And the answer that comes back from the Foreign Office and the great of the good is that we must have influence in Europe. We must have a seat at top table and we can change things. And we've done our best to prove what good Europeans we are. We go on paying you £50 million a day. We've helped the Euro bailout fund, even though we didn't join the currency, thank goodness. We've given you 80% of the fish stocks that swim in our waters. Your fleets can come and take that from us. And we've applied every directive you've given us absolutely to the letter, all of it to gain influence. In fact, Nick Clegg is so deluded he still thinks we can take the lead in Europe.
Monsieur Daul, soyons sérieux. S'il y a un parti politique pour le moment qui défend l'intérêt communautaire européen dans cette enceinte, qui autre que les Lib Dem en Angleterre, qui ose dire non à M. Cameron aujourd'hui? Qui autre?
La deuxième question majeure, et je vais l'aborder, posée par la décision du 9 décembre et la place du Royaume-Uni en Europe. Je respecte les décisions, mais à l'évidence, l'isolement britannique montre que le gouvernement de ce pays considère l'Union européenne comme une simple zone de libre-échange, sans aucune considération pour la solidarité et la responsabilité à l'égard de ses partenaires. Cela implique à mes yeux un changement de comportement des 26 et dans une certaine mesure aussi au sein des institutions européennes à l'égard de ce pays. En particulier, je considère que le chèque britannique doit être remis en cause. Les deniers de nos concitoyens devant servir à autre chose que de récompenser des attitudes égoïstes et nationalistes. La solidarité n'est pas une rue à sens unique. Il est temps de le faire comprendre. Il est temps de le faire comprendre à la coalition gouvernementale de M. Cameron et de la rappeler à ses obligations, en particulier sur les règles de régulation financière pour lesquelles elle a même demandé une dérogation heureusement refusée.
Mr. Daul, it sounded in your speech as if you were making a threat to the United Kingdom. Perhaps the translators got it wrong. Can you confirm, Mr. Daul, that in your speech as President of the EPP and on behalf of the EPP, that you were indeed threatening that the United Kingdom's well-deserved rebate be reduced or taken away? Can you confirm that you did indeed make that threat?
Thank you very much, Mr. President Daul. Yeah.
Monsieur le Président, je voudrais rassurer mon collègue. Avant Noël, je n'ai ni char ni kalachnikov. Donc il ne risque rien pour les fêtes de Noël. Ça, c'est déjà garanti, chers collègues. Deuxièmement, j'ai bien dit, si la solidarité du Royaume-Uni, qui pour le moment, pour moi, a été abandonnée vis-à-vis des autres collègues des 26, je ne vois pas pourquoi les autres 26 feraient un geste supplémentaire sur le budget. Non, je suis tout à fait clair. Ce n'est pas une déclaration de guerre, c'est simplement la solidarité qui doit jouer entre tous et pas uniquement dans un sens. Voilà.
An issue that came very often in debate today was the position of the United Kingdom. It is important to put the UK relationship with the rest of the European Union in its proper context. Emotions are what they are, but I think, as some of you have mentioned, it is important to see how we can get out of a situation that was indeed unfortunate.
And the first lesson you learn if you're doing a life-saving course is that a drowning person will try and drag his rescuer underneath. I felt rather like that this morning, on the receiving end of this minute's hate because of the United Kingdom having kept the pound, being threatened with the terrors of the earth. Of course, it was very reminiscent of what we were told when we stayed out of the euro in the first place. How's that working out for you, by the way, gentlemen?
We agreed on a new fiscal compact with new fiscal rules. Member States will transpose it into their national legislation at constitutional or equivalent level.
And so finally, also in English, some words to our British friends. I think that after a few nights, dear colleagues, David Cameron will also come to the conclusion that he made a blunder of a lifetime. If he really wanted, Cameron, to obtain additional guarantees for the city, he needs to be at the negotiation table. Why? Because in politics there is one golden rule. You only walk away if you are sure that the others will come after you to win you back.
Mr. Verhofstadt, with that Olympian authority, born of long banquets and long Euro summits, said that the only possible reason to walk away is if the others will follow you. No, Mr. Verhofstadt, there's a better reason to walk away. To preserve your democracy, to secure your independence, to keep fast the freedoms that you inherited from your parents, and to pass them on intact to your children.
Kohl and Mitterrand did it with Mrs. Thatcher.
When a British Prime Minister goes to a summit with a very modest proposal to protect a uniquely important British industry, a snarling President Sarkozy tells him where to go, with German approval of course, and we find ourselves without a friend in the room, some influence.
During Thursday night, an agreement was reached to create a genuine fiscal stability union, a new fiscal compact. On substance, this agreement was ambitious and it was unanimous. Unfortunately, it was not unanimous on the form, with one member state unable to join.
There was overwhelming public support for the Prime Minister standing aside from this new fiscal union. And as Mr. Lambsdorff says, there are now effectively going to be two parallel treaty structures. There will be the EU and there will be the fiscal union, the FU. Initials which, by the way, neatly summarise the attitude which Eurozone leaders take to their own peoples. You're Irish and you're fed up with paying all this money to European bankers and bondholders, FU. You're Greek and you're thinking that a devaluation might be preferable to this constant crisis, FU. You're a businessman, you don't want to fold to keep the euro together, FU.
But to say it with an English expression to our British friends, when you are invited at a table, either it is as a guest or otherwise you are part of the menu, dear colleagues, and that can happen now. Thank you.
I hope that Member States will confirm their commitment to provide the IMF with additional resources of up to €200 billion within the coming days.
We will review in March the overall adequacy of the overall EFSF ESM ceiling of €500 billion. The aim is for the ESM treaty to be ratified by mid-2012.
Well, you've decided to head off on the Titanic towards economic and democratic disaster, and we're now in a lifeboat outside the Titanic, but we're threatened by a bow wave that is going to come and engulf us if we're not careful, and it's retribution, and we've heard the language of retribution this morning. Financial markets legislation is going to be imposed upon Britain, and we will have no influence whatsoever over any of it.
It is precisely through the European institutions and in full respect of the community method that we can avoid any kind of split, any kind of directorium, any kind of derive that will be negative for the overall interests of the Union and each one of its member states.
The European interest was at stake, and the European interest has to be our only criterion.
Zweitens, Großbritannien muss sich entscheiden, und der Kollege ist schon wieder weg. Herr Cameron hat sich in der Tat isoliert, und er ist und wird auch keine Maggie Thatcher. Er hat sich völlig verkalkuliert. Der Binnenmarkt ist wichtig, auch für alle anderen. aber wenn man sagt, ich will ein Vetorecht, dann werden damit die Regeln des Lissabon-Vertrages außer Kraft gesetzt. Gerade der Lissabon-Vertrag hat gesagt, wir entscheiden mit qualifizierten Mehrheiten im Rat und im Parlament. Und es ist auch nichts Neues, was Herr Farage hier verlangt, sondern es ist das Einhalten des bestehenden Vertrages.
We have seen Europe more divided than ever before in an unprecedented way. Some of you are still talking about 26, and I don't think that any of you is entitled to speak on behalf of 26. So please stop it. It's not true. None of you is entitled to speak for 26 member countries. We have 17 Eurozone countries. Even those are divided into two parts, those who will pay and those who will be paid.
We now need to go further. The Spring European Council in March will discuss how to further deepen fiscal integration of the euro area on the basis of a report by the President of the European Council together with the President of the Commission and the President of the Eurogroup.
Then we have, of course, 9 non-Eurozone countries that might or might not join the plan. This is still a question, and some of them might be very reluctant. And then, of course, there is a question of United Kingdom, which some of you decided to make a scapegoat of all that mess, and I have to defend this country, because what Mr. Cameron did was just a defence of his country's national interest, in the same way like Mr. Sarkozy and Mrs. Merkel did, because they pretend that they were speaking on behalf of Europe, but they were speaking on behalf of themselves only. So you have no reason to criticise the United Kingdom nor its government.
But what he has done, he's opened up a debate in Britain. The European debate has now started in earnest. Cameron does not know what he's unleashed. I think the momentum for us to have a referendum to divorce ourselves from these failing structures and to replace it with a genuine free trade agreement now has an unstoppable momentum.
The leverage of the European Financial Stability Facility will be rapidly deployed at the European Central Bank, and the European Central Bank will act as its agent in market operations.
You're Irish and you're fed up with paying all this money to European bankers and bondholders. F you!
What we need now in the euro area and in the European Union is a commitment to sustainability, to persistence, to rigour, to discipline, to convergence over time.
You're Greek and you're thinking that a devaluation might be preferable to this constant crisis. F you!
There will be no panacea. There is no silver bullet. In these matters there are no miracles.
You're a businessman, you don't want to fold to keep the euro together. F you!
This is exactly what our citizens expect from us. A Europe of responsibility, yes, but also a Europe of solidarity. A Europe of stability, yes, but also a Europe of growth and employment.
Something changed though on Friday. Mr. Cameron may not know it, but we are now on course. Britain is going to make the great escape. We're going to get out of this union. We'll be the first European country to get our freedom back. I suspect many others will follow. And then what we'll have is our democracy back, our liberty back, and we'll have influence in the world as you lot head for disaster. It is going to happen.
Thank you.
I welcome the statement yesterday by Prime Minister Cameron that intends to continue to pursue a positive policy of engagement in the European Union on a whole range of issues.
Our aim is to strengthen both fiscal discipline and economic coordination, going beyond what we have already achieved in the six-pack.
I therefore hope that we can work constructively with the UK government to make sure that the fiscal compact now agreed dovetails neatly with European Union treaties, so that the interests of all Member States and European institutions, including this Parliament, are respected.
From now on, we will strictly adhere to the IMF principles and practices.
The Commission, acting pursuant to the European Union treaties, will monitor how the Member States have been living up to their additional commitments made in this agreement.
Just who the hell do you think you people are?